myself. But my name is Hannah. I am a registered dietitian with my co-host Shannon Warner, and she has Having a Mom podcast. Before we get started, I want to let you know that I run a women's membership focusing on creating a space and experience for them to explore their health journey outside of dieting. And what we're talking about today is actually in alignment with something like that. So, I feel a lot of my business as a dietitian, like I'm always getting asked, like, what do you even do? Like, if you don't do this or you don't do that and you don't sell these products, like, what do you do? And that's where I've realized that what I do is so very different than maybe what you know of a dietitian. And so I thought today we would talk a little bit more into just kind of my what is it, stance, and then my perspective into helping people. Shannon and I really just kind of go with the flow of topics, so we both don't come overly prepared, so it really just rolls off of like what happens, but yet we understand that, it's your time, so we keep it short and concise.
But
But
also to that point, if you have questions or anything in Hannah's zone of genius, drop those comments so we can talk to those points.
yeah. So I'd like to ask you, Miss Shannon, if like I think you prioritize healthy lifestyle, right? Like you care, you want to.
I care. I could
Hmm.
do better.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if I said, how are you managing your health? What would
Mm.
you what would you say or think?
See, for me, it's kind of a holistic, like, am I exercising? Am I taking care of myself mentally? Am I honoring my needs? And then the
Yeah.
food piece is where I fall short. But the food piece and how am I nourishing my body, that all comes into it. So I would not give myself a 10 out of 10. I give myself like a 7 out of 10 with the best of intentions
Yeah.
and a growth mindset.
Yeah, totally fine. Not judging or anything. Sorry to put you on the spot. But what I'm asking is, so often people care and they want to be healthy and they think like, oh, I'm doing all of these things to be healthy. But what it comes down to is they don't actually know what's healthy and what that means, thanks to the dieting industry telling us that weight is your health. So, are you surprised to hear that I don't actually agree with your weight being your health?
Am I? No, because I know you. But
Okay.
maybe, before we started talking, maybe I
Yeah,
would think that that
sure.
was a piece of the puzzle. Yeah. Today, no, but previously, perhaps.
Okay, good point. Yeah. So often people come to me as a dietitian wanting weight loss, and I get it. I understand that. But my passion being overall well-being and health and how to create consistency in that, it takes a lot of work to rewrite that messaging. So for example, I had a consult today, which I don't do many consults, only for very special circumstances, but this gentleman was working to improve his cholesterol. He just went and got his annual, realized his cholesterol was high. And so he wanted to improve his cholesterol. But in the efforts of being healthy, which truthfully I explained, like he is a healthy guy, we realized that what he was doing in his lifestyle wasn't health focused, it was weight focused. Everything he kind of had lined up was, the cliche like low sugar, low fat, high protein, low carb, portioned. And all of that makes sense because that's what we were kind of shown, especially in like 90s and on, that like everything you do affects your weight and therefore your health is your weight. But I actually am not completely in alignment with that because I've seen and I've been in a way where my weight didn't reflect my health. Like my food choices were actually very healthy. My weight was showing up because my well being wasn't entirely on point. So, just like you said, your sleep, your mindset, your physical activity, that's well being. That
Mm.
wasn't on point. My nutrition for health was, but my weight wasn't reflecting that. It was reflecting my well being. So, when we're talking about what to eat and what not to eat, I get so burned up when all of these mixed messages are just coming in a million miles a minute saying, you need to have this and only eat that and eat this much amount and don't have that and don't eat this and gluten's bad. It's just like too much. Because if you can't decide if it's healthy or not because there's so many mixed messages around it, the best place to start is identifying, is it weight focused or is it health focused? Weight focused is going to be, is it focusing on restriction? Is it is it focusing on calories or sugar or high protein low carb, right? Those are the things that's like, yes, health in general, you're not going to eat a pound of sugar and like be good about that, but for the most part, that's where we're monitoring what calories go in and stuff. However, when you're health focused and you understand how health works, meaning how to heal your body, how to eat to prevent disease, which is a part of healing, which decreases inflammation and all of that goodness, then you don't feel like your health journey is a constant state of rules and restriction of like, oh, well, I shouldn't have this because it affects my weight, or I shouldn't have that, or I shouldn't eat too much of this, or oh gosh, I'm eating a fry. It's actually, where's your well being? How are you adding nutrition? Not always a state of restriction. And then it becomes like really intriguing. You actually get excited. You're like, ooh, what do I get to create today? Ooh, I get to eat this because I understand what it's really doing in my life and in my body and my health. And slowly you let go of obsessing about what your weight is because you don't actually associate it with your health. And therefore, it really doesn't freaking matter if you have your quality of life. It doesn't. There's no scale in my house. None. No, we have no idea because we are confident in our quality of life and our food choices and how to create balance and well being. And if we focused on that more, the overall big picture, your health is a wash, like go out and enjoy a couple fries, fine. But it's not. It's every Instagram influencer supplementer obsessing that you're not doing right. You need to do better. Buy my supplement. And then it's like, here we go. The shame game in a different light. It used to be shame for, being a certain size or eating something. Now it's like, you're doing everything wrong and only I can teach you how to do it right. And it puts people in this feeling of like helplessness when really it's
Mm.
it's all in your favor. It's just consistency, not all or nothing consistency. It's just the well-being consistency. Was that overwhelming?
No, no, I was thinking what you were saying. The scale thing makes me so happy that to hear you saying that because we're very anti-scale too. And I got that from my husband as a former personal trainer because he was like, that means nothing. You can lose fat and put on muscle, and that your weight will fluctuate. So that thankfully I got that from him probably about
Yeah.
a decade ago now. And I'm grateful for that. But
Yeah.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Set yourself free.
Yeah. Well, and for example, on that, the scale thing is a whole nother episode. We should talk about the scale because of the
Yeah.
mind games it plays and officially takes people over edge. But what I talk about, so for in this consult, for example, and that's kind of what brought up to like, we need to talk about this more often and more exposed is, I showed him the list of some healthy snack ideas and we talked all about it and what they're doing for his overall health. But he's like, I want to be honest. And I appreciate him so freaking much for this because it's so true. He's like, a lot of these foods look really calorie dense or rich in calories. And, that's kind of interesting because usually you think, the light or low fat and everything. And when we talked about what they're actually rich in, which is nutrition, antioxidants, fiber, healthy protein, phytonutrients, and explained all of that, it's like not so much about what amount of calories you're having, it's what's in those calories. Hold on, I got a phone call. Sorry. What's in those calories? Those calories that are literally creating the quality of your health. And if we do focus on weight as far as like making sure that everything is like, low this, low that, like that, then what we were missing was actually, I should say, was actually like nutrition, like the real,
Mhm.
like it's like it was a fun case of like, we don't have to reroute everything. We just need to add to what you're already doing. And you'd be surprised that when, yes, you add food that are nutritious, full of fiber, full of antioxidants, colors, plants, vegetables, it's not a game of weight because that naturally helps balance out your hunger hormones. That naturally helps balance your satiety. That also affects your muscle. So, how that works affects your metabolism. It affects how much you, yeah, go to the bathroom. It affects your gut health, which affects your mentality. It's all this like beautiful
Mhm.
dance, and is all we have to do is appreciate food for the health benefits that it offers.
Mhm. Yeah. I think too in like our drive by, not drive through culture, but like drive by culture of like I'll just grab something quick. I was just thinking about this how when I was working in an office and I had to take my snacks or my lunch, I actually did better at this because it was already decided for me versus now when
Mhm,
I'm at home, I'm like, I forgot to eat. Let me just grab
mhm.
something. And like those are never the great choices for
Yeah.
me on my food journey.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is when we put ourselves in a place of vulnerability, whether it's over hungry or we spend all day restricting or all day obsessing about things, and then we get tired at the end of our day. We're overwhelmed, tired, just feeling vulnerable. That's when we say we have no willpower. And willpower isn't fair. I don't really believe in willpower because I feel like that's not even fair to claim that when you've not done the actual mindset work.
Yeah.
What's happening is that your body is finally saying, like, no, I'm hungry for nutrition. I'm hungry. Like, give me something that makes it last a little bit. So when it comes down to convenience, which is something that in this day and age is real life, we have to focus on convenience. I still suggest that if you're not vulnerable, meaning overtired, you'll still make a choice that you feel better about. Because we still have
Mhm.
options, even if it is convenience. But
Mhm.
if we're always in this place of vulnerability because we're starving or underfed, undernourished, overtired, then it is overwhelming. So we like to go to Chipotle, which honestly they are freaking fast. I can't believe sometimes but we like to go to Chipotle. It does offer a lot of variety of vegetables. You can get avocado, you can get your protein of choice. Their tofu is delicious, by the way. What else? I like yeah, you're right. I don't eat a lot of fast food, but if I go through Culver's, they have like a delicious veggie burger that no one talks about. And I know if you go through Culver's, that's maybe your least tempting thing. I don't do that as a diet. I don't do that as a should. I actually do it because it's delicious. I encourage
Yeah.
anyone to give it a try.
I love Culver's. I haven't tried the veggie burger, but I do love Culver's
I
for all
mean,
the other
they
reasons.
nailed it. I hate to say it, they literally nailed it. They're like, let's combine salt, fat, and sugar in everything and
Yeah.
then have people tempt it. Like, as human beings, we are animals and we are literally designed to crave those things. So, if
Mhm.
anyone is at a state of vulnerability, their cravings for Culver's will likely kick in.
Yeah.
Survival mode. Survival mode.
Oh my gosh, what's so ironic for us is that's actually the closest fast food. They put it in semi recently and we're like right on the edge of like farmland and it's like that's way too close. We're
Mm.
we're a little stingy when it comes to like dining out, so that's our saving grace. But it is funny that it's right there and delightful.
That's like if you're from the Midwest, Quick Trips. I mean, my gosh, they have figured out how to be everywhere.
I
You
don't
don't
think
have
we
Quick
have
Trips?
quick trip here.
Okay. It's a gas station. They're everywhere. All
Sometimes
right.
it's
So
Midwest we get forgotten about here in the mitten, you know? It's okay. It's all
it's
right.
not really the same.
I'm
Um,
sorry to interject. I just had to show you this because I took a sip of this and I was like, what a fabulous. Do you see what this is?
is
It's
that pizza?
Michigan in the shape of a pizza and the Upper Peninsula is ranch dressing. I'm sorry. I could have chose a better water bottle for this occasion.
I guess that identifies balance, right? Moderation to me is not never. It's that you can enjoy it that, a little bit at a time. It's so funny. I don't care. I don't care. So that's a good question too. I like that that brings up something. So often when people are, trying to identify like are they eating for their health or their weight, they can look at two things. Do they have red flags, meaning are your
Mm.
blood cholesterol in check, your blood pressure, your blood sugars, your triglycerides, your CPR, which is inflammation, CRP, sorry. Um, CRP, those things are good red flags to say, no, there are some red flags towards the disease. And thankfully for them, you can say, oh, I need more intervention. Like that's just such a beautiful thing. So many people feel a victim to them. And I'm like, no, this is great. Pre-diabetes, perfect. This is a red flag to say we need to work. Obviously, I wish you weren't there. And it's a big reason I left the hospital because I spent years managing disease, managing diabetes, managing heart failure, managing cancers, tube feedings, all this. And they always said, I wish I knew this 10 years ago. Why didn't I know this? Right? They have no idea about that nutrition affects these types of things so much. It's always about the right now. And that's what's being screamed at you from social media. However, no, like when you pay attention to like, okay, so yeah, we were talking about red flags. That's a great way to see like your body weight can be perfectly where you want it. But if you have a red flag, then maybe you're not actually eating for your health. You're eating for your weight, and that's where we can readjust things. The hard thing for me though is when, and this is a touchy subject, so I'm not going to say I'm, trying to judge anyone or say that this is a complete association. The hard thing to say is the thing that doesn't entirely have red flags is cancer.
Mm.
It quietly flourishes over years. It is not wake up and it's right there, right? And so we are either, yeah, like kind of contributing to feeding it or not. And so I'm not saying that I'm going to tell someone that they'll never have cancer if they eat this way, but there is clear research that food and lifestyle do contribute to your decreased risk of cancer. And that's what's not being talked about. It's just not. It's all being talked about how to look this way, or, I mean, even like it's just, yeah, it gets overwhelming when you see these patients struggling for their quality of life, and the people that have their quality of life have no clue what that's doing for them. They only want to make sure that everybody sees that they look this certain way. For what?
Right. Yeah.
And again, my family's been hit directly with cancer, like my dad. So it's like I'm not here to
Mm.
say that, it's not anybody's fault.
Right.
People that have it, it's not their fault, but it just doesn't have a red flag. And people often don't realize how much of their lifestyle can contribute to decreasing their risk. But when you do, and when you're confident in that, you can't help but to just let go of the noise around you. When someone's saying, like, don't do that and have this and make sure it's that. It's like you just can identify that noise a little easier and sift through it, which takes off so much stress. That's like the beauty of having more knowledge and empowerment in your health journey.
Hmm. Yeah. I think too, if you think about it as, we do other things, preventative measures in our day. We wear
Yes,
seatbelts. We put on
yes,
sunscreen,
yep,
like
yep,
these are
mhm,
all things that if something happens, I mean, things could happen, things could not happen, but we're taking steps to protect ourselves. So
yeah,
using food in a similar way.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
on point, and we're not thinking of the long game, but then it's so often that like, retired or people empty nesters will say things like, I've done this for years and I just really want to be able to play with my grandchildren, or I really just don't want to be in pain. I really want to have fun and travel. And they want to do all these things. But in the past 20 years, it was too easy to focus on managing weight, which is very doable. If you eat 3 to 6 Twinkies a day, you can manage your weight, but you're not preventing disease. So it's like we can manage our weight through caffeine, through smoking. You can manage your weight in a lot of unhealthy ways, but the weight isn't managing your quality of life in the future. And so when you start to see and have awareness of why are you making the decisions you're making, like, oh, what's a snack? I'm gonna have some beef jerky. Okay, so tell me why that's a healthy choice for you. and you start dissecting your beliefs around food, it makes you question where that came from. And then you can go back
Yeah.
and just reassess. Do you still believe that? Is that still how you feel? Is that accurate? Maybe you just got a judgment or someone else's stigma about food and you just kind of carried that out. Maybe you've
Mhm.
watched your parents like struggle with eating salads because they were on diets while everybody else got to enjoy food. And now to you, a salad is a dieting food and you ignore them. And it's like, it doesn't have to be that way. It's just like a forced belief put on you. So reassessing your beliefs around food can be the biggest shift into helping you focus on prioritizing your health and well being without this obsession with managing your weight. And it's so freeing. That's what people think.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is hard and overwhelming. It's like, no, you're creating freedom
Yeah.
because freedom doesn't come from weight loss, especially when you're cornered into disease.
Right. Right. So what is the first step? I mean, for someone to, if they're thinking, "Oh, I'll grab this because I think it's the healthy choice," is it for them to stop and go, "Why do I think that this is a healthy choice? Is it because it's only 100 calories or because it's green? Like what is the reason?" Is that the first step? Is to pause and
Mhm.
reflect why you're internalizing it as a healthier choice?
I think that's a good step for awareness of what your mindset is about food because that awareness can help you then create, like, I didn't know I had to research this and figure out what my beliefs are about it. But when it comes to things like eggs, okay, another whole topic that we should talk about. But again, it's just a huge egg industry saying, this is what you should think about eggs. But are we actually forming our own thoughts around them? I mean, in reality, eggs are a little bundle of dietary cholesterol with saturated fat. And yes, there's vitamins and minerals in the yolk, surrounded by pure protein. Okay. But is any of that disease preventative? And you're
No.
like, oh, but they're cage free and grass fed. Okay. So where did then that health benefit come from? Eating the grains and the grass? Therefore eating the animal. So is it worth consuming the dietary cholesterol, pure saturated fat at higher amount for a small amount of food? Maybe not. I don't know. Are the vitamins and minerals and a variety of other foods that do offer disease preventative properties, especially in plants? Yes. And that is goes much deeper into the science conversation about that. Am I shaming anyone for choosing a boiled egg? No, but identifying why is it healthy, because vitamins and minerals are very important for you, but it doesn't mean it has to be through a source of pure saturated fat and cholesterol. And if you're wondering, well, I heard that cholesterol and saturated fat don't come from what you eat, that's not exact what the research is saying. That's the way to twist the research, which is a whole nother conversation. I always get on tangents, but really, no, dietary cholesterol over time does add up. And if you remove dietary cholesterol, it does decrease your blood cholesterol over time, not in that exact sitting.
I think I want to pause just for a moment because you and I have talked about this before, and I know that you know it, but just to reiterate for people listening, examine where the information is coming from. If it's the dairy industry, they have a motive that is
Mhm,
tied to a financial gain, right? And it doesn't
mhm.
mean it's all wrong, but it's just
Right.
consider where the information is coming from. I mean, I was a kid of the late 90s, early 2000s, and the Got Milk, I had Got Milk posters plastered all over my room. So I'm like, milk is so healthy, and I do like milk. I know a lot of people are lactose intolerant at this point in that in their lives, but it's like
Mhm,
I was someone
mhm,
told me milk was good.
mhm. Yeah,
So just
it's true.
considering that.
It's very true. Yes, and there is so much research that isn't exposed because the whoever funded it didn't want it to be. There's research that is exposed, but whoever wanted the certain results are the ones that controlled the research to
Yeah.
make it look a certain way. That is very much happening. And I'm not saying I'm like the best at reading research, but that was a whole rotation in the internship that we had to really identify if it was biased or not, and if it was credible or not, and what were the issues with it. And therefore it's like, no, there is very much ways to get the results you want to read and share them in a way that sounds convincing, even though that's not what the results are exactly saying. So if someone's selling you something, they're likely probably trying to do that to get that result. And that's why I commit to never selling any sort of supplements or any sort of anything that can sway the way that I convey what I want to convey to you away from my point in practice is disease prevention and quality of life. So it's like, yes, you can always look at who's funding the research, but most people don't know how to read research unless you actually take some sort of class or some sort of way to read research. Even if you just read the conclusion, it doesn't mean that you can see the limitations in the research. It doesn't mean that you actually understand what the results are saying. And that's not to anybody's fault. It's that they don't offer that type of education in a lot of cases. So, yeah, that is a whole, gosh, I just feel like as we talk, it's how we should create our topics, just like taking notes.
Yeah.
But we
Yeah.
want to hear from you. If we say something and you're like, no, talk more on that, then bring it up and we will. But when it comes to health versus weight, so you asked about the first steps. Awareness to why you have thoughts about certain foods you have is really good. But also the steps to say, where is, what is disease prevention? Go ahead, look it up, research it. What is disease prevention? And you're going to find it's not actually the same as what you do to manage your weight. And therefore, you're going to have to say, I'm paying attention to the wrong things, or I'm doing great, but I can do this or that. And that's all the stuff I teach in the Wholesome Community membership, not to do a shameless plug, but to say, I get that that stuff is hard to find, which is why I'm so passionate about accumulating it for you to just kind of go through. And I don't tell people what to do, I give them the resources that help them form a smart opinion or like an informed opinion that can really make them feel confident in that way.
I think that was a fantastic segue to your offering though, because I'm sitting and I know what you offer and I know what you're about, but I'm sitting here thinking that sounds like so much work on top of everything that everyone else has to do, even if they really want to be more mindful and take more steps to, managing their
Mhm.
health and disease prevention. But it's just
Oh,
like, where do I begin? And is what I'm reading
yeah.
biased? And oh my gosh. And then there's
Oh,
Hannah.
thank you. But I will say I make it easy because I get that. But the other time when people are like, oh, I just don't know, it's overwhelming. And I'm like, you want to know what's overwhelming? When people get diagnosed with diabetes and have to figure out how to carbohydrate count, take insulin shots, manage their medications, not eat enough carbs, eat too many carbs. That's going to affect their blood sugars. And if they have low blood sugars, what do they do? That's a lot. Or they have all of a sudden this blood clot in some place and they need to manage that. Or if they have either a heart attack, a mild one, or maybe they have signs of and need immediate surgery, or stents placed, all those things, then people are forced into a lot of work. And that feels very different than a place of like, I'm gaining control of my life, which is going to just naturally domino affect so many other things. But it is well being, right? I mean, there's people that eat amazing, but then do a lot of other things in their life that kind of get things counterbalanced. And I get it too. But we're all working on this together. Like, I'm not going to sit and claim my life is perfect. But what I care about is to watch people suffer less, more empowerment, and then just like embrace their health for what it offers their life. Meaning, I see people struggle and suffer with their body image and never enoughness. Like, okay, I lost this much weight, but I want to get to this point, or all of that. I've
Mm.
seen that struggle for them almost their whole life, right? What level of quality of life is that? And that's where it's like, no, this is fun. Like, you literally are taking the reins to create a quality of life that like just amplifies so much of the freedom, but also the fun. And like it's so associated with like dieting being oh yuck, or I have to be, this doctor told me to do this, oh yuck, right? But it's like, no, I promise you start taking little bits of the aha moments you get and put them into action without an all or nothing approach, but an action as to like where you are. That's where like I say, like everybody's at a different place in their health journey, and that's okay. You don't have to ever be at a certain place because once you get somewhere, you start finding interest in another thing, and then that grows. And then all of a sudden, you go back to what was too overwhelming before, and you're like, oh, I got this now. Like that's a health journey. It's never on or off. It's always evolving or always pivoting or always emerging, but it's not this like clear on and off. And then when you get away from that, you always just feel a level of progress, whether it's fast or slow or intense, or sometimes it is intense. It's okay, but it's just this level of progress. And that allows you to just be where you are, how you are, accept that, and then evolve.
I think there's something to say too about the power of what you focus on expands. And when you decide to grab the reins in one arena of your life, it often spills over into
The
the other
domino effect.
arenas.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yes.
Mhm.
I've seen it firsthand in my own experience and other people's experiences as well. Like, oh, if you decide you're gonna get your finances under control and like pay off your debt, all of a sudden you're making better decisions in other areas of your life too, because it is all interwoven and interconnected
Yeah.
in your experience.
Yeah. And truthfully, there, yes, it is. We try to keep this 30 minutes because we know you're busy and we respect your time. But really, these conversations, each little thing we say has its own huge discussion. And it all is kind of this like, it's not about being perfect and doing everything right and being the person that's like has it all figured out. It's about feeling from a place of positivity and self acceptance and thriving versus always feeling this like catching up or
Mm,
what it's the same damn thing. It just feels different. So
yeah.
I don't know. And this is something, if you like these conversations, this is something Shannon and I are bringing to you is exposing just like the depth of conversations around health that can happen. And in the Wholesome Community membership, we're deep diving into all this stuff all the time. So you have those resources so you can go from a place of non-bias, meaning this isn't a way to get you into something that's gonna you have to get out of eventually. It's just helping you create something that works for you.
Yeah. Hannah is a wealth of knowledge. I know you could probably already tell, but she's got so much to offer, and I know you overserve too, in the best
Mm.
way. So
Oh man. Okay. So, anyways, if you have any questions, feel free to post them there. Otherwise, we'll come at you next week with some goodness that we're just not sure of yet, but it
it's
always
all
happens.
good. We love it.
It,
Here for the
it
journey.
comes together. That's it. Get out there
Yeah.
and enjoy the journey, everybody.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.